Good afternoon, welcome to UK Column News. It is the 30th September 2014 and it's just gone 1 o'clock. Myself, Louise Collins, Brian Garish and Nick are here in Plymouth as always. And it's a bit of a muggy, overcast kind of a day, Brian. Would you not say?
I would, because all the reports we're getting is that that's the cloudy layer is across the whole of UK. So if you're getting any glimpses of sun, you're very lucky.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to start off with just giving a shout and letting people know that we have bumper stickers and leaflets and T-shirts, Bradbury ones, UK Column ones, all different types. Let me put that out. There you go. All different types of T-shirts. And if anyone is interested in wanting some of these, they can email Carol, C-A-R-O-L-E, at ukcolumn.org for the flyers, bumper stickers, T-shirts, and other bits and bobs that we have here. And money coming in from that keeps us going, along with all your donations. So thanks for that.
Well, here we are, the end of the month, nearly the end of the month.
Nearly, yeah. 1 day left.
Well, it's over to you, because this is quite incredible, but very important, and we feel that this should really be brought home to people to see.
Yeah, I think so. So I get a phone call from my daughter on Friday evening. She's having a sleepover with her friend, and she says, "Mummy, I've seen the devil. You were right, they're all in it." So I'm saying, "What is it, darling?" So she sent me a video, and these are the images. Brian, do you want to put these images up? So there's this image, and then we have another one. Another one.
We should be able to do that.
Should be able to do another one. There we go. And we've got a cross behind with skulls on, and there's something down very dodgy on people's right-hand side of their screens. Bowing down to this devil figure. Well, is it from some dark heavy metal band or some rap band? No, it's a video that's been viewed 60 million times, and it is by the singer Beyonce, who is married to a guy called Jay-Z. This image flashes up for literally 5 seconds. It's a complete subliminal message. I couldn't see any relevance to the video, but people have pointed out, well, they are at a fun fair, but it's all a lovely little song and singing. And then I had a look to see what EXO meant. So I had a look at EXO, and apparently it means the mark of the beast. So our children are sitting there, and parents are out spending merchandise, buying tickets for this supposed devout Christian woman to be singing. And the words to the song are, "You love my lights out," and very, very dark imagery. And people are paying out and supporting this woman who clearly has another gender behind them. So I just wanted to share that with people. If their kids are going to be sitting down and parents are out there buying this Beyonce's music and her tickets, have a little look in, because literally we're 3 minutes in, and I urge people to go and have a look, and it just flashes past your screen. You'll miss it. You'll completely miss it. And
it's about 3 minutes in.
3 minutes into the video.
3 minutes into the video. So just bear in mind, 60 million views for that, and of course our children under a massive attack at the moment, being sexualised, and part of that, of course, is coming through the pop industry. But here we are with some pretty unpleasant embedded images. Do they cause children to commit suicide? Well, who knows? Could the government do something about it? Of course. Do they want to? It would appear not, because at the moment we're clearly seeing that the British government is another of the world governments that seems to approve Satanism. Not a joke, because of course remember that the British government has approved Satanism as one of the key religions suitable to be practiced by the military on board warships. So there we are. What sort of government have we got? Well, certainly some Satanists amongst them. We thought we'd just do a little bit of a recap on Mr. Brooks Newmark, because it's been fascinating to watch the sudden spin round with this story. So we are now beginning to read that the young lady whose figure was used to lure Brooks Newmark has said, well, she doesn't think he did anything wrong, but she's not very happy that her image has been used. So the Sunday Mirror is saying we're defending ourselves by saying there's clear public interest. Did they reveal what Mr. Brooks Newmark's true nature is? I believe they did. But at the same time, we're now starting to see that their actions are giving leverage for the government, of course, to flex its muscles over control of the press and media through the new press organisation. So we'll leave you to think about that one, but we think something doubly dirty is at work over this particular story. Brooks Newmark's exposed. I think his Twitter account went down today. We couldn't find it at one point. We'll check later today. So he's certainly bruised, and we now wait and see whether this is going to be used to bring in the powers for the state control of the press and media. Was the whole thing a double fit up? Brooks Newmark fitted up what the agenda is.
Absolutely.
State control.
But I think he will become out as this hero of free speech and the internet. That's what he's going to be portrayed to be. It's going to end up as that.
He's quite a decent chap. He
just wanted to, you know, he was
share
just
himself.
Yeah, he's just having his privacy has been invaded. In come this new press complaints board, and in they come and they'll.
So if you're somebody of status, you can do what you like in your private life. It doesn't matter at all. It doesn't affect how you deal with the public. Well, we're curious about his views and values in other areas, because we picked up yesterday on the fact that Brooks Newmark had said that charity should keep out of politics. So here he was in his previous post for civil society, clearly saying that charity should stick to their knitting and keep out of politics. Well, thank you very much to the viewer who sent this to us, because here is a big tweet from Common Purpose, and they're absolutely delighted because they're able to use Boris Johnson's picture to promote their cultural intelligence movement. Now, if you don't know what this is, I recommend you get into the Common Purpose site and have a look at it. Julia Middleton, first book was Beyond Authority, How to Lead Beyond Your Authority. Think what that means in a hospital with police. And now she is clearly there leading on cultural intelligence. And remember, of course, that it was Common Purpose that worked to stir up and get in place the Leveson inquiry, with Sir David Bell calmly hopping across from Common Purpose to the Media Standards Trust to Leveson's right-hand man.
Look at the state of him.
It's incredible, isn't it? Do we really believe that Brooks Newmark does not know that the political charity Common Purpose is at the heart of David Cameron's government? This cannot possibly be the case. He must know. So this double dealing with the public is just designed to make monkeys out of all of us. Common Purpose, research it yourself. They haven't disappeared. They've just changed form in getting the reframing into government. Well, if we want a glimpse into the future, Scotland being run by a junta of three, Alex Salmond, Kenny McCaskill and Sir Stephen House, head of police Scotland. Kenny McCaskill's been in the news over his so-called law reforms. Here we are. Kenny McCaskill denounced for arrogant law reforms, and what was actually said was that he's rushed in a review of legal aid. He's cutting back on the legal aid bill. The lawyers in Scotland have replied by saying, well, OK, we're going to drop clients who don't pay up front. So I think we've got two sides of the same game being played here, that you start off with the fact we haven't got any money.
Yep.
That's the first false assumption. We're going to cut the legal aid bill, and then the lawyers, barristers are saying, well, OK, we're going to drop the clients. Ultimately, what this means is that if you haven't got stacks of money to pay up front, you have no justice at all in Scotland.
How long? Why is he still there, Salmond? Because he resigned. When does he step down? When's he gone?
He doesn't resign. He doesn't step down till, I think it's the end of November. It's later on.
Okay, so he is still in charge, right?
Well, they never like to go too quickly, do they? Because they don't really want to go. Well, here he is. We've mentioned him, so we've got to put him on screen. And even the BBC is now having a little dig at Mr. Salmond, because he's been criticised over delays in personal expenses. So in goes freedom of access request, asking for details of the massive sums of money he spent to stay at hotels. And back comes the answer: they can't reveal this information because it would impinge on his personal security. If you knew which hotels he had stayed at, then presumably a terrorist, possibly ISIS, I don't know, could then say, well, in the future he may go to that hotel again. So using freedom of information, they might get him.
Jihadi John might come to pay him a visit.
Yeah, so he doesn't want to talk about it. We just thought we'd remind people, of course, that it took the firm to publish the information that it was the same Alex Salmond that didn't want to reveal information about the documents to do with the Holly Gregg abuse case. And ultimately, the Information Commissioner pointed out that Alex Salmond's private office was breaking the law in withholding documents, and indeed they just managed to lose or dispose of a few. So here we go. We've got another guy, Alex Salmond, absolutely frightened of simple questions from the public. We should look on the bright side. These people are telling us how to deal with them.
Yeah,
get in there,
absolutely.
dig for the information, get them exposed. And what was Alex hiding? Well, of course, he was hiding the abuse of Holly Gregg and the cover-up by the establishment. No investigation by Grampian police equals no crime. And got it right today. Here's Robert on his 133rd day of house arrest, simply for trying to speak out against children. Well, the big news is, of course, that everybody is at risk of terrorists, and some interesting stuff starting to be tweeted around. Here's the Telegraph. The RAF is too run down for the campaign against Islamic State. And it's pointing out that 1991 we had 30 combat squadrons in the RAF to do the business, but today it's only 7. And if you read this really good article in the Telegraph, what you'll find is they're saying that never mind how few aircraft there are to fly the missions, some of these aircraft are being sighted coming back to base with their bomb loads still attached. And this is clearly because, surprise, surprise, they can't actually find any terrorists to go and drop the bombs on. So the taxpayer paying hundreds of thousands of pounds per hour in order for bombs to be flown to the target area and returned. So clearly ISIS will be recoiling in horror that bombs are being taken back instead of dropped on them. Well, the Mirror's stirring quite nicely here, and an amazing story that a 15-year-old British girl has gone missing and may be trying to get to Syria following fears that she's become radicalised. So this is coming from the police. The article is also saying that 60 suspected extremists have been locked up on their return in the UK after allegedly fighting. So lots of fact here. They are suspects. Allegedly they've been fighting, but nobody's too sure. The girl's gone missing, and she may be trying to get to Syria because there are fears she's become radicalised. Well, let's have a look at Ms. Rolfe, Assistant Chief Constable Avon and Somerset Police. She said, "We can confirm that a 15-year-old student from Bristol has travelled to Turkey, and we understand she may be attempting to make her way to Syria. Since she was reported missing by her parents, we've carried out extensive work to trace her footsteps from the time she left home to her arrival in Istanbul, Turkey." My comment is, isn't this amazing that British police can't track down child abusers for 1,400 cases in Rotherham? Operation Daybreak can't deal with the paedophiles identified at 13 children's homes around the Nottingham cases. We can't deal with Elm Guest House, but a 15-year-old girl goes missing. We can track her halfway around the world, and we've got massive units of police on the case.
It was the same as people. They can track down kids in their bedrooms downloading films and movies, but they can't track the pedos downloading images of children.
So where's all this nonsense coming from? Well, enter Theresa May. The Telegraph here, getting to the point, extremists to have Facebook and Twitter vetted by anti-terror police. Let's have a look at this. What we're seeing is a creeping dictatorship on the back of a created terror threat. Very dangerous lady in our opinion. So what is she saying? Well, apparently extremists will have to get posts on Facebook and Twitter approved in advance by the police under sweeping rules planned by the Conservatives presumably the same corrupt police that are being revealed and exposed in the press, and the same police who seem to be covering up for paedophiles. They're also going to be banned from speaking at public events if they represent a threat to the functioning of democracy. Have we got democracy in this country? Not sure.
Not sure on that one.
No. Well, on it goes. Theresa is going to lay out plans to allow judges to ban people from broadcasting or protesting in certain places.
But they've already tried that with us, haven't they?
Well, they certainly have.
They already tried that one with us.
This-
So it's you stopping speaking is going to be the next thing. So 1st of November might be interesting when you get up on stage at the BCG conference.
Well, if we're allowed to hold it, because maybe
yeah?
the British Constitution Group will be disrupting democracy. The plans are going to be brought in if the Conservatives win the next election. And what they're really saying is, if you want a dictatorship, vote Tory, because they're going to be tough on counter-terrorism. And of course, the announcement at the annual party conference in Birmingham comes, here we say, as the Conservatives position themselves as the party toughest on the terror threat. Well, it goes on. Here lost that one. Here she is. Theresa May vows to get tough on extremists, a new crackdown, and she's going to include orders to ban and restrict fanatics who spread hate but cannot be prosecuted as they've not broken the law. Let's look at that again. They cannot be prosecuted as they haven't broken the law. So we're going to introduce a new law until they can be prosecuted.
Yeah.
So presumably,
so they can be prosecuted.
Yeah. So presumably we could carry on like that. We have law. We can't quite get them with that law. We need a new law until we can get them, except if it's politicians fiddling their expenses, of course.
Or fiddling children.
So here we are. The police will be able to apply to courts to impose extremist disruption orders on people believed on the balance of probabilities to be spreading or proposing to incite hate. Now, I don't know whether that includes us or the British Constitution Group or somebody saying, well, Theresa May is a pretty unpleasant person. Is that hate speech? Does that make me a terrorist?
I think so.
Probably.
I think so.
So what has this woman built? It's a massive web of private enterprise which would make the Stasi jealous, I think. Have a look at this one, the National Crime Agency. If you don't know about this organisation, you'll notice that in values it puts being truthful, open and accountable last, whereas under respect we're going to treat everyone with dignity and respect. We're going to value diversity, we're going to work in partnership, we're going to share knowledge and best practice. Where's all that dross come from? Must be Director Keith Bristow. Here are some of his mates. Who are these people and are they accountable? We don't think so. But ultimately, who are they reporting to? Well, it's young Theresa, and it's transparent as mud.
She's a beauty, isn't she?
She is a beauty. And we're not going to let her get away because she is the spider at the centre of this massive British state intelligence system, which will be working at the lowest levels with local police, social services, mental health teams under the MAPA arrangements, all the way up through to our trustworthy special intelligence services, MI5, MI6.
Talking about local police, I had a phone call from somebody last night to say, was I aware that sniffer dogs are going in to schools, children's schools, and sniffing the students? Students having to line up and they're going into class and letting the sniffer dogs go round to sort of 13-year-olds in the classroom. Apparently that is going on in South Devon.
This is to educate the children into police drug.
Well, the message I got was the warning to my friend's child was if any parents are doing anything, you know, smoking anything dodgy, it will be picked up, and the children, if the dogs pick up anything, the children will be taken into another room and interviewed. Right. That was the message that I got last night. More investigation is needed and to see if that's what's happening, but I mean, I don't know if that's legal or if it's just a fear tactic, you know, I don't know, but apparently apparently it happened, yeah? It's happening.
Well, we're just going to give a quick recap on this lovely lady, which is Chief Constable Jackie Cheer. We happened to pick up on this a while ago, Operation Sacristy. No one to face criminal charges despite 41 months of investigation. Well, not to worry. Well, actually, we should be worried, because this is the police force that were harassing and bullying a mother and her daughter, Lynn and Natalie, after they reported what certainly appears to be a paedophile ring. And we put up some of the pictures of the bruises, and this is skin condition as a result of CS gas being used on these two. Now, the reason we're putting them up on screen again is because these two ladies were picked up over the weekend and banged up in police cells. So if you find anything to do with pornographic pictures of children, you've got any suspicions of paedophile rings, certainly don't report it to Cleveland police, because you'll be banged up and threatened and bullied, at least until the public start to talk about it. And the pattern follows. We just want to bring an update with Melanie Shaw. Let's have a look at the people ranged against this very brave and vulnerable lady. Here we've got the full spectrum: the Chief Constable of Nottingham Police. We've got the leader, of course, Nottingham City Council, her MP, Chris Leslie. We've got two from the Crown Prosecution Service, including Alison Saunders. We've got Judge Geoffrey Dickinson, we've got Theresa May, and we've got Prisons Minister Andrew Sellis. This lady's still banged up in prison with no evidence. We understand that she's now being banned from making telephone calls to members of the public who've been supporting her. She's also says she's being bullied if the publicity is clearly rising. She's still got an untreated leg ulcer. I think she's covering it with dishcloths that she's got from the prison at the moment, and she said that they're messing around with her Valium to such an extent she's worried that she's going to have some form of withdrawal symptoms.
Well, I mean, there is going to be a vigil held outside the prison on Sunday. It's just a quiet prisoner to show vigil to support Melanie. We're going to try and get there. I crashed my car, so I'm not going to be able to drive there. But we're trying to get some support. We're going to be making some banners to get up there. But Lordy and Wendy, they've all working tirelessly. Really amazing job. We're also getting a wall of shame for MPs who are passing the buck and refusing to help Melanie. There's a wall of shame with pictures of all the MPs that have been written to. There has been a lot more interest in the case since Friday night, when we did, everyone got onto Twitter storm and went out twittering, thanks to Michael Doherty and Ian Puddick as well. They joined in to support Melanie's cause. So more on the vigil on Sunday from 11 outside Peterborough Prison. So we'll have more on that during the week, and if anyone can help with making some banners and posters, I know the guys would really appreciate, because everyone's getting in a bit of a panic. We're going to make some up here and get them up, and hopefully Brian or I will get up there to Peterborough to support everyone able to go, and maybe Alex G, if you're watching, if you are around. It'd be great for some photographs to come to us just in case we can't get up there.
So we're now getting into the heart of what Britain is really about, while we stand on the world stage lecturing other countries on how to conduct their business as sovereign states at home. Clearly a cesspit continually covered up by the government and the establishment. What have you got here?
Okay, where have we gone? Have you just skipped? You've skipped one of my slides. There we go. There. Okay, so back in '99, an investigation into sexual abuse at a children's home was being carried out, and a man called Frank Beck was arrested. Beck ran a children's home in Leicester, where he was accused of sexually abusing children. The gentleman pictured here, Mick Credden, then just a detective sergeant, was involved with the horrific case and was interviewing a former resident who said that he had a 2-year sexual relationship with the then Labour MP Greville Janner. The boy being interviewed was still in his teens. Mick Credden, the detective at the time, who is now actually Chief Constable of Derbyshire, said that he'd spoken out about this and an investigation needed to be conducted into Janner, but he was told that he could not search his home, he could not arrest Janner, even though the evidence was completely credible. According to Mick, this detective chief of Derby, the massive detective, he's a detective constable, chief constable now. Right. Thank you. Messages was passed to him by a superintendent, and the message about the investigation needed to stop, and it came far higher up from the police. Apparently MPs flocked to Jenner's aid. Jenner, who is now Lord Jenner of Braunstone, is now 86 and apparently suffers now with dementia. Now, if we can just go on 1 second. Oh, we're going to get to this in a minute. In this article, there's also a mention of a Labour peer called Lord Longford, who actually sent flowers to the cemetery when Beck died, and actually befriended this Beck whilst he was in prison. Longford was also close friends of Myra Hindley. Gets more interesting. Harriet Harman is actually a niece of Lord Longford, and she is also a cousin of David Cameron. So I've just put a few things together here. So here's an article saying that they keep it in the family, Harman and Cameron being cousins. Here we have Harriet and her cousin, and there he is. There's Harriet's uncle, Lord Longford, clutching a book about pornography, interestingly enough. And then I got a lot of my research, and I urge people just to have a look if they want to find out some information about what's going on in this country with regard to child abusers. Have a look at this website. It's called Database of UK and Air Paedophiles and Child Abusers. And here is the case of Mr. Beck, and it lists all the politicians who were also involved in this case, and it's a fascinating read. So.
Do you think that Harriet Harman might want to shut a site like this down because it could be misconstrued as being a hate site?
Quite possibly.
Maybe you should look at it before Harriet Harman shuts it down.
Yeah.
And you got something interesting on sniffer dogs. Very
interesting. Now, I don't know if anyone's seen the video done by Richard D. Hall about asking questions with regards to the Madeleine McCann case. But in that video, the evidence of the 2 sniffer dogs was actually not admissible. They threw out the evidence, even though the dogs go over to America, they help the CIA, they help the FBI. Well, believe it or not, they've actually been called in to help for the hunt of the missing school teenager Alice Gross. The dogs being used are actually the same 2 which were used in the Madeleine McCann case, and not only that case, the dogs were also used in helping actually convict what's his name, Mark Bridger, who was accused of murdering the little April Jones, and actually her body was never found, but because of what they found, the marks of death on people and what their jobs, sniffing for evidence, yeah. it was permissible. So let's just remind ourselves, those dogs weren't that evidence the dogs found.
So your point is that they're used in one case to get a conviction.
And why weren't they used? Why had they been thrown out of the McCann's case and not used, to interview the parents more? So here you go. So one of the McCann's friends, and these people were mentioned in Richard D. Hall's video, and I'd like to urge people to go and have a look. Rich Planet for Madeleine McCann. Nick, can you put the next one up on screen? Here's an article back in 2007 that they did find scent of death on one of the McCann's friends, and then I found actually another article, but I didn't get it in there. They also found obviously through the car, and they found it on Kate McCann as well. But those dogs, that evidence wasn't taken into account
in the McCann case.
In the McCann case, but they're okay to be used by the FBI, the CIA, in the little Alice Grosses and the little girl from Alice Jones as well.
Right. Well, make your own conclusions up from that.
Yeah.
Now, we're going to end the news today with a guest called Andrew. We'll just bring this up on screen briefly. Andrew is a very brave whistleblower. He's also a survivor of child abuse, and he's going to be talking to me in an interview we put together yesterday. This is just the start of what I think is going to be yet another massive story, not only about the abuse of young people, but the fact that once they speak out, all manner of strange things start to happen. Do they get help and support? No. Do they get the runaround? Do they get bullied? Do they get threatened in order to keep quiet? Yes. So as you listen to this interview, perhaps you keep at the back of your minds Melanie, still there in prison. Think about brave Robert Greene, still under house arrest. And I also mention a lady called Teresa Cooper, produced a very harrowing book called Pin Down, talking about her abuse at the hands of Church of England Children's Home. So here he is in his own words, and hear for yourself what is really going on in UK. Andy, hello to you. We've got a very good picture. You look good, lots of light in the room. What's the weather like?
It's absolutely beautiful up here. It's quite sunny, just the odd fluffy cloud in the sky, but generally nice.
Okay. Now, I've actually forgotten what the actual date was of the Bilderberg conference in London. Can you remember when that was? It was certainly some months ago now.
It was definitely 2 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure.
Time flies very quickly. But you were there to see what the government was up to, and we had the opportunity to chat early one morning, and I remember the ciggies and the bacon sarnies. And you came to talk about an extremely serious subject, which was abuse of children at a Catholic children's home. Now, before we get into the detail of that, perhaps you just tell our viewers and listeners a little bit about yourself. Give us a little snapshot of who you are.
Yeah, well, I'm Andy. I like to do a bit of artwork. I make sculptures and things. I paint big paintings. For quite a lot of years I've done stage sets for gigs, Fimbulbury Festival, Reading Festival, Glastonbury, Dance Tent, Manchester, Dome in Doncaster, back in the 80s and stuff. Travelled about quite a lot with New Age travellers and things like that for quite some time, and then settled down into trying to find grants to set up community projects where I was teaching people how to draw, make sculptures, print T-shirts, weld, do mechanics, and these were all working with Eastern Ravens in Stockton-on-Tees, where I took on kids painting, teaching them how to paint and stuff. They were like classified as dysfunctional children. Not a lot of people would want to work with these kids. I got involved in work like that for a short while. Worked in various community centres, putting on free gigs and things for the kids and that. And being a bit of a activist as well, going up there, doing a lot of protests and things like that. Getting involved in a bit of politics. That's been my life.
Yeah, so you've had a pretty tough existence, which you're going to tell us about, but you've obviously worked hard to get yourself out doing positive things. And it's good to hear that you've started to make some progress on that, but you, I believe, are still really unhappy with the lack of action from local police and the government on the issue of child abuse. And you consider yourself to be a bit of a warrior. So I'm going to say to you, tell us a bit about your tattoos.
Well, first of all, I don't consider myself to be a bit of a warrior. I think other people do, though. My tattoos are they're basically badges of honour. They're badges of situations that I've been in where I've been outnumbered, I've been against the odds with authority figures, and just I suppose it's proudness of doing them things and fighting these people as best I can, like in all kinds of ways, from turning up at protests to direct action, sabotaging fox hunts and things like that.
Right. So they've all got they've all got your tattoos. They've all got a memory attached.
They've got every single one of them. On my head and face. Yeah, one of them.
Okay. Well, let's get into the heart of it. You've got yet another horrific story to tell about what life is really like in the care system. Yeah. So I'm going to give you free rein here. Tell us your story. How did you end up in the care system, and what did you experience? And then we'll move it on through what's been happening in more recent months. But start at the beginning. Tell us how it happened.
Yeah, the first time I got put in the first time I entered into care was when I was a year old, and was fostered out up until I was 8 years old. From 8 years old, I got put in my first children's home. I was, at the time, the youngest child to ever go into a home like this. From there, I suffered quite a lot of abuse, physical and mental abuse, beatings in shower rooms, being touched up by, can I mention any names?
But at this stage, I think you certainly mentioned the name of the home you were in, but I think we'll leave the individuals out until we can sort of put more factual evidence up on screen. So,
yeah, the first children's home that I went to was called Dayton Close School, and it was in Louth. I'm sure a few of your viewers will remember this as well when they see it. From there, from Louth, I got taken to another children's home called the Cedars. From there, I then went to St William's, where even more abuse took place, beatings, lots and lots of kids getting raped. When I first went to the school, there was other kids warning me, stay away from that teacher, stay away from that teacher, you know, pointing them out. As time went by, so we kind of could pinpoint which ones were messing with us.
And how old were you then?
I was about 12 years old, 13 years old, I think then.
Right. Okay, and then where did you go to from there?
Sorry, no, I was 14 then when I went there. I was 13, 14, sorry. There was quite a lot of stuff going on in St William's, yeah. Sorry, where did I go from there?
No, okay, so I've confused you slightly, sorry about that. So you were at St William's at the age of about 13, 14.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And you had a tough time, but it wasn't until later that you actually really began to understand what had happened to you. Is that correct?
That's right, yeah. The police came to see me 14 years ago. What happened was, by the way, I'd always, like, just kept myself to myself, handled all these situations and stuff. Managed to get a family together, and then I got a knock at the door by the police who were investigating Operation Eno or Algo or something like that. Reno, sorry, yeah. And they said to me that they had 2 people in custody, and they had made a statement about something that had happened to me in care. Then they asked me if I could remember getting knocked out in this children's home. Now, I could remember getting knocked out, so I said yes, I could remember that. And they said, right, well, these 2 guys have made a statement saying something happened to you for 5 days. And I said, what, 5 days? They said, can you remember how long you was unconscious for? And I said, about 2 hours. They said, no, he was unconscious for 5 days. I asked them then how they knew that. Because the 2 chaps in the police station had made statements, they had also mentioned a house mother. Now, and a book, an accident report book, that was in existence as well. So they went to see the house mother. The house mother told the police that she had made a statement in the accident report book that I'd been kept unconscious for 5 days with no medical help, no doctor called, just left in that room for 5 days, and this was a single room. Well, bit shocking, like when you're, 35 years old and getting top of all of this.
You find that out from somebody else. That is quite amazing.
Yeah, this is later on when I had a friend in Durham who started looking up some stuff because I'm not very good at reading and writing. I have some friends that I told and asked them if they would research it for me, and they found that this house mother had made a statement to the police. It was in the local papers, and it was also in an internal investigation that was done by the police, which I have records of as well. I have so much information you wouldn't believe.
And just tell us what police force is actually handling this investigation, Andy?
My investigation is Humberside Police, and they've been investigating it for nearly 20 years now, but they only come to see me 15 years ago.
Right, so they've been investigating for 20 years. They've brought you into the case 15 years ago. I'm just going to jump ahead. So what progress has actually been made then in 15 years? Have they actually arrested anybody? Has anybody gone to prison?
Well, it's a bit of a sad story because I need to go back to how they've been dealing with the paedophiles from that children's home, the monks that were abusing us. The two lads who had made these original statements, they are, one of them we know now is dead, committed suicide in prison. And the reason that they were in prison is because they went to go and murder two of the priests that were raping us all. Yeah. Now they got caught doing that, so the police put them in prison. They then made the statement about what had happened to me and various other kids. They went and interviewed the two paedophile priests. They also charged them, took them to court, but the information that the house mother had gave them, the police didn't bring it into the case. Now, because it wasn't brought into the case, the two paedophile priests were let go. They was found not guilty and let go. Meanwhile, them two poor guys were in for attempted murder. One of them killed himself because he couldn't handle what had happened. So that was one of them two witnesses have now been removed from what they witnessed happen to me. The police basically backed up the paedophiles and covered information that would have got them nailed and jailed. And they'd rather go with burying the evidence of the paedophile priests and mentally torture the victims enough to kill themselves. You know, this is the kind of justice that we're seeing today for people like me. Now, to answer your question of how it's gone so far today, the police have never ever come back to me on this. They've sent me emails and letters which I've forwarded to you, and you can look through those and work out for yourself how much they haven't investigated and how much they've made excuses up so they don't have to investigate. They do say they have investigated some cases and say that it's not serious enough to investigate. Now, things that have happened to me personally, when you look at people like the Jimmy Savile case and people getting compensation, getting recognised that they were victims, and then they, you know, it's all dealt with in a year or 2 years. Why are we still waiting 15 years for, first of all, settlement of as way of compensation so we can sort our children out? Because it's also affected them, because it's affected me, it's affected my kids. I've not been able to function properly. My kids haven't got any sort of inheritance off me, or, well, obviously, as in who I am and where I'm at, they have. But, you know, as far as any sort of financial help for them to get a step up the ladder in life, there is nothing. And these people don't only owe me my life, but they owe my kids their lives as well.
Right. So if I just summarise this, so the abuse is in St William's, which is how would you describe the children's home? A Catholic run?
Yeah, it was a Catholic school run by monks. Pretty scary stuff, eh?
And how many children would be there? How many youngsters with you?
On our wing, there might well have been maybe 15 or 20 kids to our particular unit, I think. Yeah.
Right. And can you say from experience that was it just some of the children that were being abused there, or was it all the children?
I wouldn't say it was all of them, but all of us knew it was going on, because the kids that were getting abused were telling us which kids were getting abused. But like, even being a kid yourself, you're like, because you're a child, you don't know what abuse is. That you don't picture that a grown man is going to rape you at the age of 15, you know, 14 and 15. You know, you just, so you kind of disregard it to an extent, but always keep it in mind that if these people do approach you, to stay the hell away from them. Like, and I think my personal feeling right now is, due to the kids' homes that I'd been in previous to St William's, I'd always, when they approached me and told me that they had to feel my genitals for the doctors and things like that, and, you know, they'd regularly do that. And if they did it, if I fought against them, then they would you know, make me stay in my bedroom for the rest of the evening or whatever. But I used to be a screamer. They'd come in and do that to me, and I'd start screaming my head off and trying to fight them, like, hey. So they never. So all I got was lots of beatings. I did have my balls felt and stuff like that, and they did touch us up a few times in the shower room. But generally, I kicked off about it and made sure I made enough noise that other people heard to put them off doing that. Yeah. Now, this is why I think that the paedophile ring goes further than just children's out of children's home. They, in my eyes, looking back now and finding out what I know, they've been told, oh, this one's a screamer. He needs knocking out. He needs keeping out if you're doing out with him. I mean, I know it sounds so dark and horrible, but it's how it was. It's how it was. And when I look back, it's like, you know, I was never approaching his kids' home like I was in the other kids' homes, the staff. They just plain knocked me out, man. You know what I mean?
Well, and Andy, I can tell you that another very brave lady called Teresa Cooper, she actually spent many years inside a Church of England children's home, and during her time there, she, along with other girls and some of the boys, were drugged unconscious. And she was able to actually get hold of some of her medical records when she finally got out of the place. And the medical records showed that excessive levels of drugs were given in order to knock the girls out. And then they would be unconscious for hours at a time or overnight at a time. And people were coming into that supposedly care facility in order to abuse them. And as a result of the amount of drugs that these youngsters were given, it's affected the girls particularly badly, because some of them have then had problems in later life when they've become pregnant, and they've had problems with pregnancy. So this pattern of drugging youngsters unconscious in order for people to obviously come in completely and abuse them and remain completely anonymous, there's a pattern to this.
Yeah.
I'll just add to that, if anybody wants to look up Teresa Cooper, they should look for a book called Pinned Down, and you can actually read this harrowing story. And just as you were saying, Andy, Teresa Cooper, at the end of her time there, was able to get factual evidence. She was able to get hold of records from that home. She was able to get hold of the medical records showing these excessive doses. And despite this and the testimony of other youngsters who were in that facility with her, absolutely no real action by the police. And how did it end up? Well, it ended up with the church, of course, effectively buying their way out of the problem, buying silence. So yeah. I think you're telling us the same. It's the same pattern around your own abuse here.
Yeah, I'd like to add that when I came round, when I finally did come round in my bedroom, I was I was naked, laid in my bed, very sweaty, very sticky. I had to get a bath at that point. Got in the bath, and from there I had what I know now is my first migraine, but at the time I thought I was actually dying. And I got kaleidoscopes in my eyes that moved from one side of my eyes to the other. I just thought I'd mention that as well. But I can kind of remember very, very vividly, sort of cloudy, misty memories of coming round and shadows and things like that. You know, I can kind of remember seeing stuff like that. Whether I was becoming sort of half conscious or not, I don't know, but it makes a lot of sense to me hearing that. You know, it makes the penny drop, knowing that's happened to other people and they can prove that it's drugs. That more than likely, if it was 5 days that I was kept unconscious for, then yeah, I was drugged up.
Yeah,
I must have been.
I reckon, Andy, that what you've already said live on camera is certainly enough to shock many people. We're going to go into your story deeper, but the aim of today was to introduce your case as yet another case where the evidence is all there of abuse, systematic abuse going on in these care homes. Yeah. Just to to bring us up to date now, you've been, I think, dealing with a solicitors company who is supposedly there to help victims from St William's and other homes. How have you been finding them? Are they supporting you?
I find them laughable. Jordan solicitors were the first people that I went to, and they are basically telling us that they're going to bunch like 5 cases at any one time into a courthouse. So instead of us being dealt with individually as we were individually abused, they are almost wholesaling the cases. They're, it's like a cattle market. It's not to hear each victim's suffering. It's to just simply wholesale. Oh, there's another 5 that wants financially sorting out. There's nobody being actually prosecuted for any of this. There's no criminal charges being brought against anybody that's abused any of us. They're just basically trying to pay us off to keep it out of the public eye. Now, because of this, because they were bunching up the cases, I wasn't happy about that. So I spoke to another solicitors, which is, can't remember the name off front, but they took Swiss Cali solicitors, and what they basically told me that it was disgusting how this company were treating me, and that those cases shouldn't be heard in a bulk, that they should be individually dealt with. So I let them take the case over, and then lo and behold, I get a letter off these Swinsky solicitors doing exactly the same thing. You know, they've gone and put 5 cases together and put them in and said, oh, your 5 cases we've put together, but we're not actually going to put them into the courthouse. We've got to see what happens with these other 5 cases we've just put in first, because then it'll give us an idea of how the judge is going to deal with your case.
Right. So,
how can that be?
So, Andy, this to me mirrors what's been happening in Nottingham, where basically the Beechwood victims, a lot of them have been cycled through a civil court case. So this is where Nottingham City Council and Nottingham County Council have tried to buy off the problem. So the rough figure per person was £9,000. This is what's been paid out by the Nottingham authorities. And I also understand, I've got to check up on this, but I also understand that actually the majority of the money went in solicitors' fees. Now, I may be incorrect on that, I will check it, but what we see is the priority to civil case, and then everybody gets caught up with the money, the compensation, and the cases do not actually go to court for criminal hearings. Do you think that your case and the other cases will end up in a criminal court?
No, I don't. But what I would like to do is let them make me an offer, and then the offer obviously won't be enough to put anything right, because it's not been in the public eye. I've told every solicitor that took my case on, I've told them that I want it in the public eye. I don't care about the money. I want it in the public eye, and I want it exposed. And all they've done since I've said that to him is just drag the heels on and on and on. The court case has been selected to put in front of the judge for next year. So that's going to be 15 years now. 15 years. On top of that, the solicitors, to answer that question about the solicitors' fees, well, it's all right. If they're giving, if I do get an average payout of £9,000, my solicitor's fees so far already are £15,000. Get that. So what the hell are these people doing to us as victims, eh? They're victimising us even more. So what I want to do is for them to make me an offer, and then hopefully I'm going to be able to get a team of people together who knows about common law. I don't know whether this will be able to happen, but I would like to get a group of common law people together, because once they've made me an offer, they are then accepting liability. And then I want to take it out of the hands before they you know, because I'm not going to accept the offer, but I then want to take it out of their courtrooms and take it into a common law court. Now, I don't know whether that can be done or not, but these are the avenues that I'm trying to get it onto, so it makes it illegal, what they've done to us, not just a case where they decide how much they're going to pay us off.
Yeah. So this Andy, is absolutely about the route to recognition as to what's been done to you, so the truth comes out, and then there is proper justice. And you're saying, and I totally agree with you, we're now seeing such corruption in our courts that there's got to be another way of doing it. Common law courts seem to offer one route for that. But I'm going to say you've given us a fantastic overview. I'm going to thank you for speaking out, because I know it's difficult to speak out on this subject. But the wonderful thing is, I've learnt this from talking to other people, is of course every time somebody like you is brave enough to speak out, other victims of the system come out the woodwork. And ultimately that's what we need, so that we have got the thousands and thousands of people who've suffered at the hands of the state in a position to demand action, to derive justice for themselves.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Can I just say, if there's any victims out there from St William's, Dayton Close School, please contact me on info@exit2000.co.uk. I would like to organise some kind of a protest about the way we're being dealt with and the way we've been dealt with so far. I've read an horrific story today about one chap who went to St William's. He poured petrol over himself. Set himself on fucking fire, man. Set himself on fire.
Yeah.
Because of the stress of all these court cases, he set himself on fire, man. 95% burns all over his body. I want to get all of us together, man. We need to meet up, man. We need to meet. I've put other stuff on other websites and they keep taking down the contact details, so I hope this is going to be enough to get some people together to contact me.
Okay, well, Andy, we will help you. We'll help you with that. We'll put an advert with this interview so that people can see how to contact you via email. I'm going to finish it there. Thank you very much for coming on to UK Column and telling us about your experience. And
right.
What I'm going to...
Can I say thank you very much to your team for covering this story, and there's lots more to be heard of me yet. I've got horror story after horror story about these kids' homes and while we've been and evidence, phone calls from...
Well, there we are, magic, quick change and a tie back on. What an incredible story. I can see from the comments in the chat room that many of you shocked once again by hearing what is really going on when we're talking about the abuse of children. The politically correct child exploitation simply does not do things justice. And Andy showing once again it takes the bravery of these people to get the subject right out into the public arena. So once again, police failing to do their jobs, procrastination at a minimum by the legal companies involved, and time ticking by as the establishment hopes that things will fade into the background. It's up to us to stop this. How do we stop it? We need to get the lid off the tens of thousands of children who've been abused in the British so-called care system, and we need to make sure that the abusers are brought to book, and the civil servants who have allowed this terrible situation to happen are also brought to book. And there are two simple charges: misfeasance in public office and malfeasance in public office. So the law has got the correct opportunities for dealing with people who at a minimum are turning blind eye to child abuse. We're going to stay with Andrew to report on this case, and we'll keep people informed, and we'll also give details of how you can get in contact with him and how you can support. So we'll leave it there. What a sad day it is when we really start to see what Britain is all about, while David Cameron and his Conservative government are warmongering overseas. This is the pitiful truth of what is really going on at the heart of Britain. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back at 1 o'clock tomorrow. Bye-bye.